So earlier this week, I made a video talking about The Undertaker having Donald Trump on his 6 Feet Under podcast. And I'm going to let you on a little secret. Right at the start of that video, I sighed, just like, and I started talking. When I went back to edit my video, I almost cut that sigh out and just started right where my voice started. And then I said to myself, no, I'm going to leave that sigh in there because it's fitting. Because that was a tough video for me to make. I've been a lifelong fan of The Undertaker. One of my all-time favorite wrestlers, and to see him platform and try to normalize Donald Trump and to actually say out loud that Trump had made politics fun again was so disappointing that, to be honest, it was a tough video to make because the last thing I ever wanted to do was speak ill of The Undertaker. But I'm dead serious when I talk about where I stand on the side of democracy, and I really don't care if my mother disagreed with me or if the ghost of my grandfather came back. I still say, hey, sorry, I'm right here on the side of democracy, and if you're going to stand over there, I can't be with you. So this video is going to be a lot more fun to make because one of The Undertaker's all-time great opponents and one of my all-time favorites, the legendary hardcore legend, Mick Foley, Cactus Jack, Mankind, Dude Love. He came out on the voice of reason. He came out on the side of sanity and on the side of democracy, and he pulled no punches, like he always does, and it was so great to watch. We're going to start right here and walk through it, but this one's a good one, and I'm having fun making it. Roll it.
Yeah, I think it's really important to talk about the election. I think it's important for everyone to have a moment where enough's enough. I mean, for me, enough was enough 8 years ago. The Undertaker is correct in saying Donald Trump made politics fun again.
You've made politics fun again.
For about 3 weeks in 2016. But it's 8 years later, and there's absolutely nothing fun about this man. To me, there's nothing fun about a man who could be the next president of the United States talking about the enemy within, making it clear that this was not a mistake. This is his go-to line, the enemy within, the enemy within, the enemy within.
It's the enemy from within.
The enemy from within. I think the bigger problem is the enemy from within, not even the people that have come in.
Which he co-opted from Senator Joseph McCarthy, one of the worst people to ever grace our planet. What frustrates me the most is that so many good, hardworking American people cannot see through such an obvious con man who is only out for himself.
You know, as I was sitting there listening to Foley, I was like, man, that sounds like everything that I've been saying on my YouTube channel for the last couple of years. This guy's taking the words right out of our mouths. Every day when we sit down in this chair, that's what we're saying. We don't understand why anyone would think that Donald Trump made politics fun again. There's been nothing fun about this ever since he came down that escalator and started his criminal rampage. And enough is absolutely enough. We're so sick of this act. We're all so tired and exhausted from it. And we all, for the life of us, will never understand fully why the working man got behind Donald Trump. And Foley's just starting to cook, so let's roll another one.
The idea that the working man thinks this guy is behind them has obviously not looked into his past. I know people work hard. They don't always have time to go home and do their research. But instead of tuning into your favorite news station of choice, look up the data. See how many times Donald Trump has failed to pay his contractors and workers over the last 30 years. It's in the hundreds. He claims it's because they didn't do good work. This coming from a guy who claims he only hires the best people. I claim he's screwing over the working man.
Donald Trump absolutely is screwing over the working man, and I sometimes wonder if people like The Undertaker has ever actually looked in to Donald Trump's past dealings and what kind of guy that he actually has been and how he's treated working people, or is it just that he's a rich, wealthy white dude that's going to get a tax break under Trump and doesn't care? It makes you wonder, but we always have the receipts. We always have the proof in the pudding to show you and say, hey, here's where this guy's been screwing people for years. And this is not something that just sprang up all of a sudden. People for years have known what kind of crook that Donald Trump truly is and how he stiffs his workers and doesn't pay them. And the wrestler Kevin Nash, who played Big Daddy Cool Diesel, had a story from Mick Foley. Take a look.
Kevin Nash today told me a story about going into the venue that used to be the Taj Mahal, mentioning Trump's name and seeing the bartender roll his eyes. And the bartender told a story about his father was an electrical contractor, worked hard his whole life to build up that business. And then when Trump did not pay him for the work he did in the Taj Mahal, And the man was unable to fight it because he didn't have the resources to fight it. Trump knows that the people, honest, hardworking contractors, don't have the resources to fight him in court. And he bankrupts them. Their dreams disappear. That's not standing up for the working man.
You know, I wonder if people would have known back in 2016 all the lives that Donald Trump had ruined and all the people he had screwed over ahead of time. I wonder if it would have made any difference. Part of me says it wouldn't. Part of me would have said they would have still give this guy a pass. But I really believe that if really people understood what kind of guy he truly was all along, they wouldn't have been so gung-ho to get behind him back then. And I think a lot of the reason why they did, and I've talked to some that did, it's because they were tired of establishment politicians, and they were just thinking about, you know, giving a businessman a shot at it. Let him try it on for size, which has never made sense to me. It doesn't make sense, because if you were going in for heart surgery, you wouldn't be like, hey, let the barber have a shot at it, man. I'm tired of these heart surgeons. I mean, shit, let my barber have a shot. You wouldn't do that. So it makes no sense to me as to why you would hire a billionaire who bankrupted a casino and stiffed his workers. But, and again, I don't know if they had known all those things, if it would have changed anything. But Foley's right in what he says in this next clip. Every time Donald Trump opens his mouth, he's lying, but he's not lying about the enemy from within. Take a look.
Words are cheap, and he lies almost every time he opens his mouth. But you know what he's not lying about? When he talks about coming after the enemy within. The enemy within. Who is that? It could be anyone. It could be me. An article came out today in NPR, October 22nd, 2024, with a study that showed Donald Trump had issued over 100 threats to people he perceived as his political rivals. He has threatened to impeach and prosecute Kamala Harris. He accused Barack Obama of treason. He said his chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Mark Milley, General Mark Milley, should be executed. He did nothing to stop what could have been the death of Mike Pence, his own vice president.
You know, I can literally hear the frustration in Foley's voice, and I can feel it. I can feel his frustration when he's talking about, are you talking about me? Are you referring to me? And when I have family and friends just kind of let it blow off their shoulder, like, it ain't no big deal, Brando. He ain't gonna do it to you, buddy. He wouldn't do that. Really? You're gonna chance it? What are you gonna say if he does? Are you gonna be okay with it? Those are the questions that I have. But when you take a look at what all the people around him that worked for him, that he hired, that he said were the best people, all those people have came out and talked about what a fascist he is. All those people have came out and talked about what a disaster he is behind closed doors, and all of the things that he said. And no one will believe all the people who have been working in that field their entire lives. They don't believe that. They believe this con man that just suddenly showed up. But Foley's going to close this one out, and I'll be back to wrap it up. But I'm so glad that Foley just takes off the gloves right here and says exactly how he's feeling.
And now he's gone so far as to say that anyone who criticizes the Supreme Court and other judges should be put in jail. So, Donald Trump, I'd like to talk directly to you. Are you going to put me in jail for criticizing your Supreme Court? Because I think Clarence Thomas is a disgrace to the Supreme Court. I think Samuel Alito is a horrible person who doesn't belong on the highest court in the land. I don't think Brett Kavanaugh's interview in front of the Senate would have landed him a job as a dishwasher, let alone serving in the Supreme Court for life. I mean, I'm so scared that I was thinking about calling you a douchebag in this interview. And then I thought, that's a pretty strong word. Trump might come after me. And I made the decision not to call you a douchebag, even though you are one. Vote for Kamala Harris.
I applaud Mick Foley for making that video, and I know it wasn't an easy video for him to make. I don't know the guy personally, but you could just feel his frustration at the start of the video when he name-dropped The Undertaker. You could tell he really didn't want to. I know the utmost respect that he has for The Undertaker. I've heard how highly and how fondly he speaks of him, so I know he didn't enjoy doing that. None of us have, actually. None of us has actually enjoyed sitting here and trying to point out to someone, hey, you're rooting for a man who wants to be a ruthless dictator, and you're just not seeing all the evidence we're putting right in front of your face. It does get frustrating, and especially when you're trying to talk to people that you do love and care about and respect. But I really respect Mick Foley for just going ahead, taking off the gloves and letting us know where he stands, because like I've said, to all the people that says celebrities should shut up and sing, I don't think no one in this election cycle should ever shut up and sing. I think that I want to know where everyone stands. I want to know exactly where you're at. so that I know going forward who's on the side of democracy and who's on the side with someone who would turn the American military on me. If that's not a deal breaker for you, then I want to know that up front. But yeah, this was a much easier video to make because I've been a fan of Mick Foley for so long. I personally, if he were ever to see this video, I don't know what the odds of that are, but if that was to happen, my absolute favorite character will forever be Cactus Jack. Nothing beats Cactus Jack. Now, Mankind was great, and his whole feud with The Undertaker and the Rock and Sock connection was entertaining. Dude Love was entertainment, but Cactus Jack and the death matches with Terry Funk and Terry Bam Bam Gordy, they were just so good. The feud with Big Van Vader, I could just nerd out and talk wrestling for the rest of this day, honestly. But I'll never forget where I was sitting. I was sitting on my couch. We lived over in Middlesboro, Kentucky. I was 17 years old, and I was watching him and The Undertaker in Hell in a Cell. And in the first Hell in a Cell with Undertaker and Shawn Michaels, Shawn only fell from halfway up the side of that cage. When Foley climbed to the top of it, I remember as a kid going, oh, there's no way. There's no way he can fall off that. It's 300 pounds, and there's nothing down there for him but just those tables. There's not a crash pad. What the hell is he going to do? And he went off the side of that damn thing. And I almost hit my head on the living room ceiling as a 17-year-old boy. And I ran and woke my mom up because she was a huge fan of his. And I was like, I think they just killed Mick Foley. I think he's dead. I was with Jim Ross. It's over. Good God Almighty, they've killed him. I really believe they had. You would think that The Undertaker being the one that threw him off the cage, I mean, Foley went through hell that night for real. So you would think that Foley would be the one in this scenario with the fried brain cells, but it worked the other way. I mean, and it sucks to say that about your heroes, but damn, wake up. Politics made politics fun again. I think that F5 from Brock Lesnar just rattled him a little too hard. I mean, made it fun again. In what world? Please tell me. I'd love to know.